Good evening, good morning. Trevor Palacio, welcome to Wamalali, Africa, on the one and only platform, the Global Pan African Network out of South Africa with our president, Daniel Mwambuno. Peace and greetings to all of you. Shalom, salamu alaikum, namaste, you name it. We have a special conversation that is going to be had today. We're live on Tuna Cheki TV. Once again, we are live on Tuna Cheki TV with over 800,000 followers. Tune in online, Facebook, tune in online at YouTube at Tuna Cheki TV. Today, the conversation is going to be about West Papua. It's been 58 years since there was a conversion of power from the Dutch to the Indonesian government. As of May 1, 1963, to May 1, 2021, it's been 58 years since our people in West Papua have consistently been violated. Over 550,000 lives have been taken within that period of time. Today, we have Sister Tagama and Brother Lewis, who will be having a conversation with us to give us an up-to-date breakdown of where we're at based on where we come from in 1963 to 2021. Before we go into that conversation, the Global Pan African Movement and the United States of America is a government in formation for the Black nation. You see the colors behind me, red, black, and green. You can flip them however you want to flip them. We are not pursuing autonomy. The people of West Papua right now have autonomy. We are pursuing self-determination. Let that be clear. We're pursuing self-determination. I belong to the Garifuna Nation out of the Caribbean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's an honor to be here today. Sister Dagama, if you could please introduce yourself, followed by Brother Lewis, and if you could tell us which organization you represent and what country you're in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Leonie Tangahma. On behalf of the Lieutenant General Jeffrey Bomanak, who is the chairman of the Organisasi Papua Merdeka, the Free Papua Movement, and on behalf of the leadership of the National Liberation Army of West Papua, the TPNPB, and on behalf of the people of West Papua, please allow me to extend our revolutionary greetings. Allow me to thank warmly our brothers and sisters from Africa, the GPAN, the movement of the United States of Africa, our brothers and sisters from Africa in the diaspora, from Garifuna. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk and to present ourselves and to let you know what is happening in our country today. Thank you.
Sister Takama, thank you so very much. And we're really honored to have you here because the most powerful element on planet Earth is the Black woman. So we truly are honored to have you here today. Brother Lewis, please introduce yourself.
All right. Okay. Thank you, moderator. My name is Louis Pravalip, and I am one of the members of the OPM Free Papua Movement, and I'm based in Melbourne, Australia. And as Sister Leonie has actually done the introduction, with the greetings from the chairman, Mr. Bomanak. We want to say thank you to our brothers and sisters in Africa for giving us this opportunity to be able to share the plight of our people back home in West Papua. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Brother Lewis, thank you so very much as well. We know that the struggle, again, has not been easy for our people in West Papua. And we want to take a moment of silence before we go into the conversation. Again, we've had over 550,000 brothers and sisters. This includes men, women, and children, grandfathers, grandmothers, aunties, in these past 58 years that we have lost. Please, a moment of silence. Ashe. Ashe is the breath of life. It is through Ashe that you and I exist. It is through Ashe that you and I have manifested into this platform. For quite some time now, our people have been violated by the hands of the colonialists. And for quite some time, they've done everything in their power to keep us from realizing who we truly are. And we are kings and queens, but we have forgotten that. Today, we have kings and queens again that are being violated. Their rights are being violated in West Papua. Please Google it. It's in the Pacific Islands. Sister Takama, we want to start with you by giving us a brief history of May 1963, what has happened that has brought us to this point. And Brother Lewis, where she stops, you will carry on some. And Sister Takama, I will interject so that we all stay on the same page. And then we will end with closing open remarks from each one of you. And we also want to open up the floor for comments. We have guests who are listening right now. Please start throwing your comments in, throw your questions in, and we will close with your questions. Sister Takama, 58 years. What has happened? What has brought us here?
58 years. Thank you very much. The West Papuan issue is an international issue. It is not an internal issue of the Republic of Indonesia. But we need to indeed look at history, what happened. We need to understand that the West Papuan issue became a matter of crucial strategic importance during the Cold War. And the United States of America, through its Central Intelligence Agency, played a major role in how West Papua was illegally annexed by Indonesia. And the people of West Papua are still suffering the consequences of this annexation today. This history is a history that we share with people around the world, because at the same time that the plans were being drawn of how to annex or how to integrate West Papua into Indonesia, Patrice Lumumba in the Congo was being tortured and assassinated for the same reason and by the same people. At the same time, the people in Cuba were or Fidel Castro they were trying to kill him in order to grab the land of the people who didn't agree with capitalism, with imperialism, with colonialism. So in 1961, we as a Papuan people, we had started to take the first step to become a people, to become independent. At the time, we were still colonized by the Dutch. And West Papua, which is the western half of the island of New Guinea, it was under the Dutch, and the Dutch had no option but to agree to let us free, because they were bound by United Nations texts and resolutions that were telling them to decolonize whichever country or whichever territory they had under their possession. So in 1961, in April, we started with a parliament that was put together so that we could start walking towards that. But already our leaders at the time, our elders, saw that something was happening in the world. They could sense the effect of the Cold War, and they knew that they had to speed up the process. So in October 1961 of that year, they started, they drew a manifesto where they said, and I quote, "We Papuans demand our position equal to that of the free nations, and in the ranks of these nations, we Papuans wish to live in peace and to contribute to the maintenance of world peace." It was basically already a demand for independence. We also made sure that the Dutch knew that we wanted this flag to be our flag, this national anthem to be ours, the name of our people, the name of our country. So in December 1961, on the 1st of December, the Dutch actually accepted those symbols, national symbols, that would become the national symbols of a free West Papua at some stage. But very soon the conspiracy started. The Americans, the Indonesians did not want this to happen because they had discovered a humongous, huge mine deposit of gold in West Papua. Already they knew, no, this cannot be a territory that we can leave to others. They needed to take it over. So under the auspices of the United Nations, after the Indonesians had started to protest and said that they wanted that piece of land, the Dutch had to go into negotiations with the Indonesians. and the United Nations basically conducted those or mediated, and the Americans actually were the ones who put in a mediator called Ellsworth Bunker.
Right.
And he basically, and we know that now, he was basically very close to the CIA. He already knew where those negotiations should lead to. And on the 15th of August, 1962, these negotiations led to what we call the New York Agreement between the Dutch and the Indonesians. No Papuans were ever involved in that process. And that New York Agreement stipulated that we were supposed to vote at some stage for our independence or not, if we wanted to stay part of another country. And that's where it was very vague in how this was going to happen. Right. And what they allowed to happen was a United Nations temporary executive authority would come in to take over from the Dutch. And very curiously, very strangely, they also agreed after that the Indonesians would take over. And that happened on the 1st of May, 1963. Right. And that is why we call it Annexation Day. That's the day when the Indonesians came in, they made sure that the people there understood, this is us, we're the new colonizers. They brought in their army, they intimidated the people, they tortured the people, they killed the people in order to make sure that this atmosphere of terror was installed. And in 1969, a very fraudulent act was perpetrated when 1,025 people, instead of the 800,000 at the time, West Papuans voted, so-called voted under pressure by the Indonesians to become part of Indonesia instead of becoming part of or becoming an independent nation. So that's what happened in the background of the Cold War, which is easy. We can explain it, we can understand it nowadays. But when it was happening, we had the insight of our elders who knew that this was going to happen. So they quickly tried as best they could to fight this, but it was very difficult with the might of the superpowers who wanted everything, and with their greed.
With the superpowers, we had the United Nations there, we had the Dutch government there, we had the UN there, United States, Dutch, and UN. With these three powers who don't look like you and I. Let's get that clear. I mean, it's very important that, Louis, usually when the conversations were being had to date, even when the conversations are being had in 2021 about what's going to go on with us, we're not at the round table, right? Louis, anything you want to add to the thoughts by Sister Leona?
I think if you look again at the the New York Agreement, again, I'm just going to emphasize on that. Basically, we were never consulted, or our leaders during the time knew about what was happening, and they were not given the opportunity to say at least something of what they want. So we were kept in dark. And this New York Agreement was more or less between the Dutch and the Indonesia and America. So we felt betrayed again. We were kept in dark, and we the people of West Papua know what was going around during the time, and we were not given the opportunity to really say our piece, what we want for the future of West Papua. So again, in the agreement, it talks about referendum. And also, and then leading up to the referendum in 1969. And one thing that we need to mention as well was before the referendum, I think in 1967, Freeport, the mining company, and the and Indonesian government has already signed the agreement for the mining to start in West Papua. So more or less, is U.S. is just behind the whole, just basically backing up Indonesia to take over West Papua. So, so the 1969 referendum is more, they were just using UN as a rubber stamp to, to kickstart off this, invasion of West Papua, as I would say. So, and leading to the 1969 referendum again, like on the New York Agreement, it says that the Papuans should be given the opportunity to participate in the referendum. Again, Indonesia violated that agreement when you know very well it stated clearly that the Papuans should be given the opportunity to participate in the referendum. So Indonesia did not follow what was stated in the original agreement. What they did was, they used their own system. And the thing that really surprises me was that when you will know that there is a process of doing a referendum where you need to get every adult, invited and participate in the referendum. What they did was they allow Indonesia to take over this whole process of referendum in West Papua. So they basically let them do whatever they want. So this is where it is wrong. It is like they are betraying the people of West Papua and basically going against their own laws, where it says that you need to have every adult over the age of 18 to participate in a referendum. So I think UN needs to come back. They need to come back and really see the mistake that happened in the past, and they need to correct this mistake. Yeah. Right. So I think they owe people of West Papua an apology, I would say. Yeah.
Right. I think more than an apology, Brother Lewis, Sister Leona, could you speak to that a little bit? Because what we're doing now, I'm in the United States of America. I'm broadcasting live out of the MC Art Gallery in Marin City, California. This is a very famous place. A young brother by the name of Tupac Shakur. He lived here. He grew up right here in this territory. So there's a history here that Sister Oshala and I are about to reinvigorate by starting a local national NAACP and a local chapter of the Marcus Garvey movement. Why are we going to do that? Because we know that there are things that we could do from the United States of America, which is why we're doing this live. For those who are in America, this message is to you. There are things that we could do in the United States of America. Stop packing your bags up and moving back to Africa or moving back to wherever it is that you're doing, because the power that we can gain from Mother Africa or elsewhere, we can do it right here. This is our home. We should not run off and pack up. They don't do that, right? So my question to you, Sister Tagama, Brother Lewis, thanks for speaking about the United Nations. What can you say to outside powers? What can you say to outside nations that are not West Papua, that are here in the West, including organizations like the UN?
What we would need to say is that the West Papuans, soon after all of this fraud happened in 1969, the West Papuans decided to organize themselves. They were shocked by what happened to them. And like any other people in history, they organized themselves and they walked all the way to a place where, which was given by some of the customary elders in the Kerom. And it was called Marcas Victoria headquarters, the Victoria headquarters, where they organized the fight against the colonization, the colonizer, where they organized themselves in order to let know to the world that they rejected the 1969 Act of No Choice, as we call it. And this is basically what we're trying to tell people around the world. The Free Papua movement started in the 60s, continued in the 70s, and on the 1st of July 1971, a historic proclamation was done where we rejected the 1969 fraud, and where we demanded that our right to independence be respected. That is basically what the OPM stands for, the right to self-determination, no autonomy. Autonomy is out of the question. But the right to self-determination, total separation from the Indonesian Republic, and And we do that through the 1st of July 1971 Constitution and the OPM Charter, where the OPM struggles for the unconditional recognition and the respect, again, of the right to self-determination and the statehood of the people of West Papua, as guaranteed by the United Nations Charter and all the relevant United Nations resolutions. So the OPM basically asks to people around the world to recognize that the people of West Papua have the right to independence, to support that right by giving information on what happened on the one hand, and on the other by making sure that the governments of these countries also understand and realize that they have a role to play in making sure that the time is turned back so that the West Papuans can become free again. So the OPM has 3 wings. It has a political wing, a military wing, and a diplomatic wing. A military wing which has been active since the 60s up until today. The military wing, since 2018, we need to understand that there has been a progressive a progression in the fight, the conflicts with the Indonesian military. West Papua is one of the most, no, it is the most militarized part of Indonesia.
Right.
There are the military is abundant. The Indonesian military, which is composed of the military, but also the police forces. It is the people are highly intimidated by that presence. It is a way of life for them. They know that they are being watched constantly.
So it's a police state.
It's a police state. It's a police state where you see that it is very well organized by the Indonesian security forces, where there are spies everywhere, where people who pretend to be workers for development, or people who pretend to be teachers or pretend are basically there as spies of the security forces. Which is also why when those people are targeted, the Indonesian military usually hides behind the fact that they say that these are civilians. These are people who actually spy for them and who make sure that who put together scenarios where our own fighters are ambushed. So I think Brother Louis is going to tell you about the most recent, the current situation where the situation today is now escalating since since last week.
Brother Louis.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The current situation in West Papua, most of you would have had recently last week. One of the Indonesian army general that got killed in West Papua, in Puncak, Papua last week. It was actually shot by the West Papua National Liberation Army. So as a result, the Indonesian government has escalated their approach, meaning that they've actually upgraded the West Papuan National Liberation Army and OPM as the organization. It's not Free Papua Movement. They categorize it as a terrorist organization. So again, we argue in the sense that we the people of West Papua is a country that's still been colonized by Indonesia, and whoever that fights to liberate the people, liberate the country and the land, they more or less are freedom fighters. They're not terrorists. So what we've seen is that Indonesia is basically, as the chairman Jeffrey Bomanak said, it is the last attempt by the colonizer to hang on to West Papua. So they've and also to hide the illegal occupation of West Papua. They try to come up with all sorts of labels against our people by saying that, well, first they started by saying that the organization itself, Free Papua Movement, and our military arm, which is the West Papua National Liberation Army, as a criminal organization. But recently, after the shooting of the Indonesian Army General in West Papua, they've upgraded it to the status where they call it a terrorist organization.
Right.
So we the people of West Papua actually disagree with that. We don't think that is right, and of course we were going to fight real hard to ensure that we will let the international community and the world know that we are fighting to liberate our land, our country from the Indonesian colonial rule. So the recent label by Indonesian government on our organization and our military, TPNPB is a terrorist organization, it's not true. And we will defend it.
Brother Lewis and Sister Leona, I think that there might be a book out there for whoever wants to become a colonizer. You know, like if you want to become a chef, there are books. If you want to become an author, there are books. If you want to become whatever you want to become, there are books. It seems that there's a book out there that ancient colonizers developed and modern day colonizers adopted, because this strategy of and I'm gonna use a good example of the United States of America, of calling the freedom fighters, because these people are freedom fighters, but they're calling them terrorists. Right here in the United States of America, when the Pilgrims came, they called the Native American savages. Savages. When the real savage was them. They were the savage, but it's a way to deflect, you see. And the reason we're live right now on Tuna Techie TV is because we're countering the information that they're putting out there into the universe, which is making these freedom fighters look, because I'm here to tell you, in America, we in America are going to believe that they are terrorists. I'm telling you that. And the minute that we as Americans believe that they are terrorists, the rest of the world accepts the fact that our West Papuan freedom fighters, let's get it straight, in your face, they are not terrorists. They are freedom fighters. Our brothers and sisters are freedom fighters. 550,000 of our brothers and sisters in these past 58 years have been killed. They're fighting for freedom. And just like Sister Leona said, we need more than autonomy. Because, Brother Lou, one of the issues right now in Papua is this autonomy law. Because autonomy allows you to do what you will with yourself, but it will not allow you to do one thing called self-determination. And Leona, it's about self-determination. Lewis, it's about self-determination. Trevor, it's about self-determination. Tunati TV, it's about self-determination. The United States of America, of Africa, I'm sorry, it's about self-determination in the global Pan African movement. We are about self-determination. I'm glad that you guys brought up governments, because I want to speak a little bit about the Indonesian government. All right, let's leave West Papua alone a little bit. And Sister Leona and Brother Lewis, let's talk about the Indonesian government, which is really a Sharia law government. Okay, this is a quote unquote Muslim government. So for those who claim to be Muslim, we want you to know that Indonesians are modern day colonizers. Now, Sister Leona, about how far is Indonesia from West Papua for them to be able to have this impact? And just like you say, that the largest and most heavily militarized space is Papua.
It's actually Indonesia is quite far. When you take a plane, how many hours do you get? Does it actually take?
It's about 3,000 miles exactly.
Thank you. Miles. Okay. I count in kilometers, so that's exactly it. Thank you very much. it's too far to actually be part of Indonesia. Once you come to West Papua, you realize that it's not the same people. You see a black people and not an Asian people. When you come to West Papua, you see that it's a different way of looking at the world as well. West Papua also has Muslims, but the issue of religion is now being used as a way of making sure that people start conflicts. In Indonesia, we were appalled by the fact that Indonesia started calling us a terrorist organization.
Right.
But what we don't see from Indonesia is that they don't actually call some of those Muslim fundamentalists in Indonesia as terrorists. When you see that all these terrorist attacks that have been happening in Indonesia that were caused by Muslim fundamentalists, it wasn't
freedom
West Papuans.
fighters.
Yeah, it wasn't West Papuans who went there to actually kill people in the what was it, the Marriott Hotel or in Bali. It wasn't West Papuans who went there. No, it was Indonesians themselves.
Yeah.
So Indonesia needs to look at itself more. It has its own problem. It needs to take care of that. We have nothing against the Indonesian people. We have something against the Indonesian government and its security forces. It's apparatus that is colonizing West Papua, that is subjugating West Papua, that is killing, torturing, raping West Papuans, and stealing the natural resources. And indeed, you're right. All these arguments that are being used, all these policies that are being used, it's textbook. It's as if somebody had written a book about colonialism and now they're applying it, and they've been applying it. And I'm almost sure that it actually is the truth. Somebody out there wrote a book and they're applying it, and they're not even ashamed that they're doing this to fellow human beings.
Right.
And that's colonialism.
That's colonialism 101. And Brother Jalu Joseph said, when are we, the Black people, going to stop blaming people and start blaming ourselves? Brother Yalu, assalamu alaikum. Let us let you know that this platform is not about blame. This is a solution platform.
Yeah.
You know, Lewis is here for solution. Leona is here for solution. The United States of America, Africa is here for solutions. We're not here to complain and point fingers. We know who the oppressors are. Their face continues to be the same. But to your point, Joseph, let me allude to one thing. You're absolutely right that we are to blame, because right now we need to shout out and say that in order for the Indonesian government to be successful, it requires West Papuans to help them. I repeat, in order for the Indonesian government to be successful in 61, and in order for the Indonesian government to still be successful in 2021, it requires that there are West Papuans, people who look just like you and I, who are a part of that. So yes, we could blame them, right? But we are here for solutions. We're not like those, right? As the scriptures said, by their fruit shall ye know them, by their fruit. And we're here to show you live on Tuna Cheki TV. You will see the fruits of our actions. Brother Lewis, Indonesia, we're still on Indonesia. What are your thoughts about that government and that space?
Yeah, we actually don't have any problem with the people. Indonesians, the Indonesians themselves, they're good people. It's just a system of government that is making the life of everyone, the West Papuans, and also not the West Papuans only. There are other parts of Indonesians as well who are, who are fighting for the freedom as well, like in Aceh or in Kalimantan. There's groups, coming out now, fighting for, to be free from Indonesia. So it's basically the system of the government, how they run the government. Or I would say the Javanese empire that, is the one that is controlling the entire archipelago. So if you bring down the Javanese system, then there's about 7 countries that are trapped inside that archipelago will be free, and one of them is West Papua. So we are all kind of like trapped under the Javanese system. So the Java, the little island, is the one that is controlling the government system itself. So anyone that's holding the top leadership in the government would be a Javanese. So we feel again, and also the other thing is there are system of the system of education. The textbooks, like Sister Leonie mentioned earlier on, their textbooks are written in such a way to brainwash their children, in the education system. And one of them was about West Papua. How they portrayed West Papua was they see Dutch as an enemy, and Indonesians were the savior that helped to save the West Papuans. So basically, it's the other way around. So sometimes we try to question them. You shouldn't be. How do you believe whatever is written there? So, but there are a lot of Indonesians now. I think the new generations coming up now, they're basically aware of what happened in the past, and there are Indonesians that they are supporting the cause now. For example, in Jakarta, we have groups like Front Indonesian People from West Papua. These are Indonesian, students, I would say, at the university, and normal Indonesians now they already realize that what their own government did in the past was wrong. How they invade West Papua, because we realize it's two different people altogether. So and they begin to stand up now and fighting for a cause, and that's something that we should acknowledge them. And
well, I agree. We definitely agree with you, Brother Lewis, that not every Indonesian, just like not every white man, is a bad man.
Yes.
Right. Okay. We're going to keep it practical, very pragmatic. We're not going to act like every Indonesian is evil. I want to read a comment here. Uli Gay Pace Pando says that the Indonesian military is carrying out genocide in West Papua, and that is a fact. I wanted to read that first because there's another comment by Roberta Damina. And Leona, I want you to speak to it a little bit. And the comment says, I like this discussion, but really sensitive to label religion, in parentheses, Muslim, with ethnic issues in Papua. What I want to say to that is, Roberta, we do agree with you that it is a sensitive subject, but the reason that we bring it up is because if we are truly Muslim, individuals who truly follow the 5 pillars of Islam in Indonesia, we just won't stand idly by while we see all of these atrocities continue to happen. We hope you understand that. It's just like the good cops in America. They say there's all of these good cops in America, but Black people continues to get shot down, and we don't see a group of good cops stepping up to say, hey, stop. Leona, the floor is yours, Leona.
About fundamentalism, yes, it's I have Muslim people in my own family. So and we have Catholics, we have Protestants, we have, so it's as people we have been able to live in peace for centuries. In West Papua, my own region has all these 3 components, religious components, and it is only now that people are trying to make it an issue. And it is only now that there's this issue of fundamentalism, which is telling young people to start rebelling in such a way and looking at others in an evil as evil itself, that makes it practically impossible for some to think straight and to look at to recognize who the real enemy is. Who the real enemy is, the enemy within, the enemy without it, and that's the tricky part about religion, where once it starts being used, it flares up the situation, and then people start making up the causes of the conflict. So they will start saying that it's religion. No, it's not religion. It is the West Papuan people want to be free. They want their right to self-determination to be respected. Full stop. That's the only. And so now what's been happening over the past decades is the same thing. For example, they've been using the fact that we have had, because there are so many tribes in West Papua, they've been saying that the people are fighting each other. They're having these little intertribal wars, and no, West Papua wants to be free. The war is the one against the Indonesian military, the Indonesian security forces, the Indonesian government that is colonizing West Papua. So every single time, also when we approach governments, the Indonesian governments would already have talked to them and given them these issues that are fake, that are artificial, and that is not at the root cause of the problem. So we fully understand as West Papuans that it is not an issue of religion. We are one as a people.
Agreed upon, Sister Leona. And the last part of the conversation, we've spoke about governments or powers that are involved. The first one that we spoke about was the UN. And then we spoke about Indonesia. I want to speak briefly about the Dutch, where their current position is, because I know that when this transfer of power happened, I know that it didn't sever the relationship 100%. And I also want to touch up on the United States of America, right? Because I believe that the broker in this whole case is the elephant in the room, who is pretending to not know anything, who has said nothing, and that's the United States of America. Brother Lewis, you have the floor on that. So the Dutch government, how close are they still to the Indonesian government? And what could you say to us in the United States of America?
Well, after West Papua officially became, not really officially, became part of Indonesia, more or less, as a West Papuan, it's my own personal observation, I feel that Dutch has basically betrayed our people when they actually promised us independence. And we, the people of West Papua, feel that Dutch is no longer a friend, I would say. But as years go by, and we've got a team in Europe, like in Holland, like Leonie and them are there, and they would have a clear picture of how far the campaign has gone in especially in Holland, in regards to the Dutch government. And I personally feel the Dutch government actually have an obligation towards the people of West Papua, because as you know, during the colonial period, they had this obligation where the task
Lewis, who are this is just an interjection. Who are the Dutch? Could you there's another word for the Dutch people, and modern day people don't necessarily know who the Dutch are. Who are the Dutch in modern day terms?
Maybe the Netherlands, I would say.
Okay.
I'm not really sure. I'm not yet, so I would say the Netherlands government. If you look at the history again, like they were tasked in the past by UN to prepare its territory, West Papua, for independence, and more or less they just abandoned the whole process and left. And we, the people of West Papua, we felt that like Dutch still has an obligation and to come back and complete, the decolonization process. So maybe I will probably just give it to Leonie. Maybe he can
give us a little bit about the United States. Your thoughts on the United States, and then we'll come to Sister Leona, because she's going to hit both points, the Dutch and the U.S.
Yes, with the United States, they're more like a broker. They're middlemen. They try to get Dutch and Indonesians together. I've been doing a lot of I've been actively on Twitter, and I've been tagging the U.S. president and even reminding them about the role that they play during this period. And they especially they have this interest now in the Asia Pacific region now, and I feel that they really need to come back and look again at this issue of West Papua, because basically they played a key role in getting West Papua, annexed by Indonesia. So we right now we have a new government now. We have a new president, Joe Biden, and a new administration. Right. And hopefully, we just pray that the good Lord will speak to them, because, as I've said again, the interest now is the shift now is it's coming to a specific. Now you have this China and in the Americans. Right. They're fighting for this part of the region. So hopefully, America will intervene in the case of West Papua, because West Papua is the only region in the Pacific that is still being colonized. Yeah, and so I think they know what's happening, what's going on in West Papua, but they've been very silent about the issue. So.
Yeah, Brother Lewis, they definitely know. We know in the United States. Definitely the government knows, but the people don't know enough. And again, this is why we're live on Tuna Cheki TV to inform the community. They don't know that this is going on, and the government won't do anything without people power pressure. I repeat, the people won't do anything outside of the United States of America. Even inside of the United States of America, we still have dirty water in Flint, Detroit. But the government won't do anything without the people power behind it. Sister Leona, the Dutch government, in short, and then your thoughts about the U.S. and what should be done and said by them. And then we're going to ask our guests right now, if you have a question, we're going to close with a good, strong question. Put your questions out. In the next couple of minutes, we're going to close with one strong question. Sister Leona.
About the Dutch government, we have a Papuan community here in the Netherlands of about between 1,500 and 2,000 West Papuans who have come here since the 60s. And we have been putting pressure on the Dutch government to do something, because, as Brother Lewis said, they have a moral duty to do something about the situation, about the mess they put us in. The Dutch government is Holland is this tiny country. Right. It's not a member of the Security Council. It is very tiny, and yet it is mighty rich. It is. Right. It is. On European standards, it is really rich. It is also a safe haven for some of the companies, big companies. So it's got a lot of money, and it's going for the money. It's forgetting about human rights. It's forgetting about its duties. What we've been doing as Papuan people is that throughout the years, throughout the decades, we've been asking them to do something about the situation, what they needed to do. And what we successfully did was to draw their attention to the historical perspectives that they needed to do. They needed to review what happened in the 60s. We were successful in doing that, and the government at the time, the Dutch government, was able to conduct, or to ask one of its institutions to conduct a historical review of what happened in the 60s to correct the wrong in some way. And the gentleman, or the researcher in question, Professor Dorklever, was able to write a book on that. Maybe we can put it somewhere on the links so that people can actually read that book or buy it, right. Because it explains exactly what happened. It's called An Act of Free Choice. And it explains what he did. He researched it. He asked some of the survivors of that fraudulent vote. He asked them, and they explained to him, well, no, it was under pressure. Yeah. And so that's as far as it went, because right. After that, the government changed again, and the Dutch government was not willing to politicize whatever had been brought out of that historical perspective. So we're kind of stuck right now. The Dutch government is continuously being informed about what's happening in West right. Papua. They've got their people also in Jakarta and in West Papua but they're waiting for something. They're waiting for some sort of. They're following the Americans, that's for sure. And now the Americans, basically, they have been exploiting the biggest gold mine in the world in West Papua. So they have their reason is clear. They want that gold. They need that gold. If the people of West Papua have to die for it, then it's too bad, as they would say, as they would think. If they need to get the Indonesian government to do it for them, to kill those people, they will allow that, and they've been allowing that for the last couple of decades. If the people of West Papua have to be tortured for that, they will also allow it. The security forces, so-called security forces, who are protecting the Freeport Company, because that's the name of the company that is extracting that gold and copper, are basically the Indonesian part of the Indonesian army, and they are there to. They constantly tell the company that they need to get paid more because they need to protect. So there's a lot of money going into protecting that mine, into the pockets of Indonesian security forces. So the American government talks about human rights as well when it issues every year this report about what's happening in the world. They also issue a report on what's happening in Indonesia and in West Papua. So they acknowledge that there's human rights violations happening, but that's it. That's all they do, and it's all, the term is about human rights. So they hope that autonomy will bring some solution. So it's always the same talk, double talk about them respecting human rights throughout the world, but neglecting and completely denying the people their right to self-determination, their right to independence, which is the only right that will guarantee our rights as a people to survive, or our rights, our fundamental rights to be respected, our human rights to be respected. So it's like a circle. They're thinking they're saying we're going to do this. We're going to help you through autonomy. No, it's not happening. It's not working out. It's not been working out for the past 60 years or so. You had another question?
No, you answered both of them, which was one point about the Dutch. You answered that, and the United States of America, and you're absolutely right. They are waiting on the United States of America to do something, and the United States of America won't do anything because they're raping the industry. So as long as they keep their hands clean, because right now, who are we talking about? The Indonesian government. We're not talking about the United States of America, the one being oppressive. But now we could say that there is a beneficiary to this oppression that is being pressed by Indonesia, which includes the Dutch and the United States of America. So once again, we are broadcasting live on Tunacheki TV. Over 800,000 followers. We're right here on the United States of Africa Global Pan African platform, live on Tunacheki TV. And Tunacheki TV has a question, and we're going to close today with it. And we're going to start with you, Lewis, and you have a minute and a half to answer. And Sister Leona, whatever he leaves out of it, please close it. So the question from Tunacheki TV, which we are live on right now, is: have the West Papuan put their case to the AU, aka the African Union, Brother Lewis?
Well, there's been some meeting going on with some of our leaders actually been to the ACP meetings. There's some discussions going on, and I'm not really aware of it, but I think it would be good if we can collaborate with the African Union because we feel more connected with our bigger brothers in Africa. As being African descendants, we feel that the African Union has a duty and moral obligation also to help us in fighting this, ending this illegal colonization, occupation of our land. So we're hoping that one day we would maybe through our organization, Free Papua Movement, to meet up with the leaders from the African Union. But yeah, we're hoping that would happen soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Brother Lewis. Sister Leona, AU, do you know of any information? Are they involved?
At this stage, we only the AU is not involved. We only have contacts with or had contacts with some governments that are member of the AU. In the past, the political support and the moral support, but also material support from Africa was big. They had recognized us as a people who were fighting for their freedom, and they have been supporting us because they knew what was happening. So right now we need to let them know again what is happening. That is part of our plans. I'm very biased in this discussion because I actually grew up in Senegal, West Africa. So I'm very privileged because I have been brainwashed from a very early age into thinking, and I know for sure we are from Africa, all of us.
Right.
West Papuans. We are basically in the diaspora in the same way that other people are in the diaspora. And the people and the governments of the AU are the ones that will understand, like no other, that we are not a terrorist organization. Because in the convention that they adopted in 2003 about terrorism, they said that the struggle waged by peoples in accordance with the principles of international law for their liberation or self-determination, including armed struggle against colonialism, occupation, aggression, and domination by foreign forces, shall not be considered as terrorist acts. So they know, and they will be on our side. And once we approach them in the way that we should approach them, they will very definitely again help us.
Thank you, Sister Leona. My concern with the AU is actually what they did to Sister Arikana, Dr. Arikana. I'm a strong proponent, being a Pan-Africanist, I'm a strong proponent of any movement that is positioning itself to empower our nation. And the African Union is supposed to be synonymous to the European Union. But from what we know, Dr. Arikana was dismissed as an ambassador by the AU for simply bringing up facts. And what was the fact? That France is pulling out over $500 billion a year out of Africa, and they removed her for that. So I'm concerned with what the AU could potentially do, because Sister Leona and Brother Lewis, they know what's going on in Papua. They know. We shouldn't have to be calling on the AU to participate in this. The AU should be the one fervently looking across the globe to see, hey, how can we help our brothers and sisters in West Papua? But I have not lost faith in them, because again, anyone who looks like you and I'm going to give you benefit of doubt. But I'm not like Jesus Christ. I have no cheeks to turn. You slap me once, I promise you, you're going to get it right back. That's called respect, right? That's called respect. So we expect for the AU, the African Union, to show its people that they're actually representing them, right? They're actually representing them. Once again, we're tuned in live right here on Tuna Cheki TV. Special guest Lewis Pride. We want to thank you for your time, brother. Thank you so much for tuning in today, brother. You're Black and you're beautiful. Sister Leona, we want to thank you for your time. You're definitely Black and beautiful, Queen, right? Without a doubt. Thank you for everything that you're doing. We want to salute President Daniel Mwambuno of the United States of Africa. Everything that he is single-handedly doing across the globe. He is the only other person that I know that is busier than I, because my nation is in 6 countries. So I'm across in 6 countries. But this brother here, he's trying to bring all of us together. And it is an honor to be working with the president of the United States of Africa. Brother Lewis, do you have a closing comment under a minute or less?
All right. Thank you. I would just like to appeal to all our international friends to keep an eye on what's happening in West Papua. We have fears of major military crackdown in West Papua after the killing of the senior officer in the Indonesian army. This week, we've got the Indonesian military helicopters flying over the villages where the general was killed. They were actually attacking, bombing the villages, and about 4 villages in the Puncak, Papua have actually fled to the neighboring villages. So we are really concerned with the safety and well-being, and we are appealing to the international community to keep an eye, to put the pressure on UN to immediately dispatch a team to West Papua, because it's an urgent situation. Right now, our people have actually left the villages, they've gone hiding, and we feel for the safety.
Right. Thank you, Brother Lewis. And Sister Leona, there was a pastor that was abducted a couple of weeks ago. In your closing comment, could you inform us, if you know, has he been returned home to his family?
No. He hasn't been returned. We're still they're still advocating for his release, and it's also the Indonesian intelligence that usually has these scenarios where they pretend that people are part of the armed rebellion, and they arrest them, or they torture them, or they kill them. They killed, for example, 3 youngsters a couple of weeks ago as well, in one go. And then the next day they were buried. So it's something that they hide, and they just hope that the world doesn't hear of these things.
Right.
So it's maybe I can say my closing words as well.
Yes.
About,
yes, please.
As you might have seen, my interventions were mainly about history.
Right.
As a famous singer said in his song about Buffalo Soldier. If you know your history, then you know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And that is what we feel. We feel that we have a common ancestor. We feel that we're also Africans in diaspora, although we settled millions of miles away from Africa. But the way we look, and the way our elders have taught us, the way we transmit things is the same as our African brothers and sisters. So that is the main thing that I'd like to share. We are in it together, all of us.
Yeah.
We come from the mother continent of Africa, and she will protect us. God bless.
Thank you so much. We are right here live on Tuna Cheki TV. And my closing comment is this. Oh, pirates, yes, they robbed by, sold out to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless. But my hands were made strong by the hands of the Almighty. We forward this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing this song of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had is redemption song. Redemption song. This song of freedom. We're here to let you know, live on Tuna Cheki TV, that the Black Empire has never gone anywhere. We were in a sweet slumber, but we are woke. As our brother Bob Marley said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Free West Papua. Salute.
Merdeka, Papua Merdeka.
Oh man, thank you so much.